With us right now, Suzanne Justice. Suzanne, you are the founder CEO of Rian Consulting. Who's Blake Rian?
I actually named my company after my daughter. I was pregnant with her when I started it. So her name is Blake Rian.
Well, I would hope that at sometime in the future, she'll take over the reins and it'll be all set up for her.
That's the plan.
Well, very cool. Suzanne, high level, go ahead and explain what Blake Rian does.
So we are a
daughter. What does your daughter do, by the way? How old is she?
My daughter is 2.
Okay, so she juice boxes and
yeah.
She's
at summer camp, hanging out, having the time of her life while we're working away.
So now, Blake Rian, the agency or the consultancy, what do you do there?
So we're a full service staffing and recruiting firm. We work with clients nationally, and we do anything from temporary workers, temp to hire, direct hire, and we have managed services that we do for larger clients.
Yeah, excellent. So tell me what industries you're working in.
Right now, because of the pandemic, obviously it's slowed down a lot, but right now we're working in finance, HR. We're seeing a lot of customer service roles start coming back. Title and escrow has been a really big industry for us this year.
No kidding.
I know. It's crazy, just nationally across the board. And we're hoping that hospitality starts coming back because that was a very large division for us in 2018.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. I mean, just based on what I'm seeing in terms of travel statistics. So my other business is savings agent. So I do a lot of consumer stuff, and that's one thing we've been paying attention to is travel trends, and things look good. I am so happy. Yeah. I'm so excited. Even just as of when we're recording this middle of June, seeing things like senior centers open up again, and seniors being able to connect with their friends. Oh, I was like, oh, I'm so happy we're here.
I know, it's so nice.
Yeah, tell me what you're seeing in the hospitality industry from your perspective.
So we're starting to see people opening. I think the biggest thing that we're running into right now is shortage of staff. And I think that's just all across the board. We work with anyone from the small family-owned restaurants up to really large corporate catering companies who sit on the big campuses. And while most of them have not completely opened up just yet, the restaurants have really been struggling for servers. I mean, anything, honestly, from back of the house, front of the house, just trying to keep them going so that they can actually start opening, lunch service and breakfast service and not just dinner for 5 hours a day. So we're trying to really work on getting candidates a little more incentivized to come back to work at this point.
Yeah. So what do those incentives look like?
Well, right now, the biggest incentive, it seems to be, is pay. I think it's been a big discussion for a long time, especially in different areas where they have higher, living expenses, and it's higher rents and mortgages and home prices. It's finding that what is that livable wage that servers and hospitality industry folks can come back and feel comfortable in, but also that, the small restaurants can afford and sustain themselves. And so I think right now it's just really trying to find a happy medium or other incentives around, benefits or finding creative ways to do tips with your teams in those industries too.
Yeah. So before the pandemic, explain how you got into this role and you decided to put your own shingle up. What were you doing before Blake Rian?
I've been in the staffing industry for almost 15 years.
Yeah.
So I managed teams for the really big, large conglomerate staffing companies. And, in the end of 2018, I just decided that it was time for me to start my own business. I really noticed the industry kind of moving away from it being a very relationship focused industry, and staffing was kind of becoming a bad word, if you will. People kind of balked at staffing companies. And that's just
headhunter, very transactional.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, I get it.
Exactly. And that's not how I like to do business.
Yeah.
And so I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And our son was 1.5, I think he was 18 months old, and I was pregnant with Blake. And I said, we can't really fail at this point. So it's not an option. And so I started Blake Rian, and I was really fortunate. I had 3 clients that I hadn't worked with in 5 or 6 years, but I always stayed in touch with them, did quarterly lunches, and they were the first 3 to sign contracts with me. So.
Wow. So now you're off to the races. So,
yeah.
how does one, or how did you then grow that to now the book of business? And again, it's all about relationships. So what do you do to continue to grow relationships?
For me, it's really important that we fit into what our clients are looking for. I know with a lot of large corporations, they say, this is how we do things. This is our process. This is our model. And you can either follow it or essentially work with someone else. And for us, I started this business and I said, I'm going to fit into what my clients need. So I'm not going to have, specific specialties that we only do, because every business has multiple departments that need different types of positions. And so I'm really focused on ensuring that clients have that personal touch. Each client that I have has one person that continuously contacts them. So it's not a revolving door of people coming in and out and recruiting or being their account manager. They have one sole person per account right now, which is great. And I'm still very high level, very in touch with all of the clients too. So, one of our big managed service that has Carissa, who's their account manager, I still talk to them on a daily basis. Same with all of our other clients. So it's really just, keeping in touch, letting them know that you're there, doing the temperature checks with them. What are we doing well? What can we improve on? And just letting them know that they're not just a number to us.
What can an employer do to make your job easier?
Oh, geez. Honestly, I think it's just being really clear about your expectations, but also understanding that, there has to be some leeway on turnaround time. So for example, we can't respond to everything within 30 minutes. Just having that understanding that we're doing everything we can, but give us a little bit of time to respond. I think that's the biggest thing. And, right now I understand it because everyone's struggling with trying to figure out how to reopen, what's going to be their office plan, how are they going to get team members back or hire new people. And it's kind of like everything's on fire right now. So our biggest thing is just trust us. We know what we're doing. Just give us a little bit of time.
Yeah. And so where do you, like, Suzanne, how do you find employees? What are you just kind of searching around on LinkedIn? Is that primarily? I don't mean to, for you to give up your secret sauce, but I don't know, how do you do what you do?
It really depends on the position. So there's some positions where we rely heavily on our postings going more like Craigslist or Indeed. And then there's some positions where we do 100% just passive recruiting on Indeed. It really depends on what the role is and what the skill set is.
Yeah. And so are there platforms that you use? Like I guess that's the biggest challenge, right? Is, are there, you hear companies that are using like all these Indeed or these job platforms or whatever. Do recruiters use those platforms as well? Or are you pretty much looking, again, I'm sorry, you can say, you can tell me to shut up, but I'm, the curious mind wants to, I'm just curious, how this works.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So some of the positions that we have, so I'll give you an example, would be like a maintenance technician for a large managed service that we work with. The majority of the candidates we're going to get from those roles are going to be from, Craigslist. And that's where we're doing like the majority of our postings. And then we post on Indeed, and then we do resume searches on Indeed for those types of roles. Yeah. Then you have other positions like an HR director. And that's a role where we would only go to LinkedIn and just passively search LinkedIn. We always post the roles just so people can see what's available, but that's the type of role we're looking more for those candidates that are already working that potentially don't even know they want to make a move, but they do. And we're trying to recruit them away, if that makes sense.
Well, talk about where we are right now and what a big opportunity is in terms of it feels like an employee market.
It is. It sure is. It is. And it's interesting because a lot of people think, when unemployment's really high, then it means that it's going to be super easy to find talent and get people hired. And a lot of times it's actually the opposite of that. Because, they have a lot of competition. You have a lot of companies who are trying to find ways to compete. One of the things I always tell clients is you have to move quickly. You cannot spend 4 days trying to make a decision on somebody, especially if they're interviewing elsewhere. you need to have, your ducks in a row, everything lined up and ready to go. And it's difficult right now. People unfortunately were very hit by the pandemic, and luckily they were able to do unemployment, but with the incentives, they're getting quite a bit to stay home. And so that kind of, makes it difficult when trying to get them back to work at a less wage, if you will, or comparable. So I think right now it's just, it's really finding ways to look at the overall package, but then also be quick when making decisions.
Yeah. Right. Any advice for people that they're listening to us and they're kind of getting excited, like, oh, maybe I could make a career change, or, maybe I could consider, like, what should they be doing to look attractive to recruiters?
One of the things that I always tell people is keep your LinkedIn updated. That's something that everybody looks at. Even, if we find somebody on Indeed, we go to their LinkedIn, we take a look. We also, when we talk to candidates, we'll ask them when they get interviews set up, if we can send that to the hiring manager. And then sometimes the hiring manager will just look them up anyways. And we do the same with hiring managers. When we set an interview with a candidate, we send them the hiring manager's LinkedIn. So just gives them a good idea of who they are, a little more in depth about what they've done versus resumes. And so I always tell people the first thing to do is always keep that updated.
Yeah. So when you say update your LinkedIn, like what would be some elements of a really effective or good LinkedIn profile versus one that's like, oh, come on, are you even trying here? Because we've all seen bad, like, I mean, it's just, there's nothing in it, right? It's
right. I would just say be pretty specific. One thing that I always tell people, especially in the sales or metric driven type of position, or like staffing, for example, always have numbers in there. You always want to have numbers of your accomplishments. So whether it's, grew revenue by X% or brought in X amount of new clients. I always say be as detailed and specific as you can, obviously without embellishing anything. You always want to be very honest. But I think that's a really good way to do it. If you have, volunteer things you're doing, I say, put that in there. Just try to be, use your own personal discretion on what you would find acceptable or what you think employers would find acceptable as well. But just stuff like that, so that, people can see kind of a glimpse of who you are, your interests, what you do, the successes you've had. I know for some people it's very odd to tell everybody how amazing they are. But that's a great platform to do that without feeling embarrassed or, feeling uncomfortable about it.
I've heard kind of both ways on this, but do you think that other social media, like, so for example, like, let's say there's an employer, like, do you think that they might Google that person, or maybe look and see if they're active on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook? Is that ever something to consider?
It is. And although, you hear that people don't use that as a hiring or can't or shouldn't, they do. Yeah. And I mean, I've let people know before to be very cautious about that, or make your profile private. So only your friends can see you. And that way, if somebody who you're not friends with Googles you, it's just or they try to find you, it's just your profile photo. But then again, be cautious with your profile photo. And I think, I think, it's so hard in this day and age that we're in, with especially everything going on. And I think people have to understand that you still have to have that level of professionalism, and not every corporation wants to jump in or express politics and everything going on in the world right now. So just trying to be mindful.
Yeah. It's, it's the internet paints a picture of who you are. And guess what? Everybody knows how to use Google. Everybody knows how to search social media. They can find you.
And it never goes away.
Unless you keep it like really locked down in a fake name and all that. But even still, like, I remember even it was like years ago, looking at some of the software solutions that were available. Was it like, I forget what the name of it, some of them were, but it basically like, no, we could pretty much build kind of an AI driven profile of exactly who you are based on the content that you share publicly. And company, and again, this may be a good thing, right? Because a company has a culture, and you don't want to work for a company where there's a bad culture fit. But if there is aligned culture, maybe that's a good thing. So if you take a stand for certain social justice issues or whatever, that's not, be authentic to who you are.
Right.
And you might find that that's a net positive. But, again, if you're going to jump out on controversial subjects, and maybe it's a misalignment, again, just trust that, what you put out there, it's visible to employers generally. And
exactly.
Yeah,
Which is interesting too, because I've noticed a lot on LinkedIn that I've seen LinkedIn kind of go on the other side of that too, where it's not as professional as it used to be. I don't know if you are on there very frequently during the day, but it's interesting to see. It used to be just about work, but it's kind of blurred a little bit. And I tell candidates, you got to be really careful with that, because people see what you're posting, and if it's something that they may find offensive, then it could cause them not to want to move forward with an interview, which like you said, you have to be authentic. You have to be yourself and do what you believe in. But I think there's a platform for that, and not a platform for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so an employer that's listening to us. Oh, one last question I wanted to ask you, just because I saw some of this on your website as well. Are there, and you have a lot of accolades in terms of like your SBA, WSB, WBNC, you're recognized as a women-owned business, and there's some diversity things here too. I would imagine that you've probably had employers that are like, listen, right now we really need to be mindful of diversity. So are there things that employers can do to be more attractive to recruiting more females, more people of color? Like I would imagine, like, I don't know if you ever get involved in some best practices for that.
I think the clients that we have right now, I haven't, to be very honest with you, seen them come back with those types of requests, mainly because I think the majority of the ones that we've always worked with have already had those in place. And so it's been,
they're already on it.
Exactly. Good. And, with Blake Ryan, we're the same way. I haven't had to jump into any huge new programs of diversity, because we've just always been that way. And especially in specific, industries that we work with, a lot of the people that we work with are, people of color or minorities. And, we've always promoted that work with veterans. It's always been an important thing consistently. So I feel like we haven't had those clients have to say, okay, now we're starting this huge diversity program and we need to hire all these diversity managers. And because it's just kind of been there, which is fantastic.
Good. Yeah, great. Wonderful. All right. Suzanne Justice, your website, Blake Rian Consulting. That's RIAN. So Blake Rian Consulting. When folks go to your website, what should they click on? Where should they start? What do they do?
So they can go, you can see the jobs we have open. You can do about us and learn more about our company and how we started. And then there's also an area where you can contact us and enter your information. And that actually comes directly to me.
Yeah, excellent. All right, this is fantastic. Again, Suzanne Justice, thank you so much for joining us again. The website, BlakeRyanConsulting.com. Thanks, Suzanne.
Thank you so much.